Hello, everyone. I hope you are still with me. So far in this series, we have mostly interact with Databricks, SQL, and tables. However, Databricks is not database first platform. It is file-based data platform. When you say the file-based data platform, we are now from this episode, we are thinking about data layout or file layout. And when you say the file layout, the files are most critical item for performance, cost, and reliability on Databricks. We'll be dealing with a CSV file, Parquet file, and Delta file. What are those? Why they are is needed? When to use, etc. We'll be covering. And also there is another most important concept is a folder design. We should be designing the folder for this CSV Parquet and Delta file very carefully. And also is do the partitioning strategy is with the care. So the Databricks will perform as expected. Otherwise, Databricks doesn't do a job as expected. So think about like in SQL appropriate indexing. In SQL there is multiple types of indexing, partitioning, or compressioning you can do for the performance, right? Similarly, in Databricks you can do the folder design, partition design, and also like schema enforcement, and then you can move. You have to move this file from CSV to Parquet to Delta appropriately. So that's how you get the performance in Databricks. So with that being said, let's jump and try to understand what the CSV, Parquet, and Delta actually mean and how they look like. I have created a small diagram here since this is a really important topics to understand the CSV, Parquet, and Delta. Start with the CSV file. CSV is for the raw ingestion. So a user will send the file through the CSV. Most of the time they send through the CSV file. The problem for the CSV file, it's easy to read, human readable, but the problem for that CSV file is slow. Is not efficient for scale. It doesn't do really good. It's not for analytics. It's for the file ingestion. We can take the raw file from them, but we cannot do a lot of work from there. That's because of the slowness. So in order to resolve that issue, what we need to do is we have to convert that CSV file into Parquet format. So how we should convert that file into Parquet format is like if you see this example right here. We are getting this CSV file from the user where all this raw and duplicate data within file, easy to read. However, when we create the Parquet format file, it automatically Parquet this file in that format. If there is a duplicate data, it's just merge the data into one column, things like that. So it's converted in Parquet. So how it's converted is once we move the data from bronze layer to gold, like silver layer. As soon as we move to the silver layer, is change that file to the Parquet. So Parquet has a better compression, faster query, and a less I/O. For analytics, we should use a Parquet or Delta, not the CSV. So let's see what's the difference between Parquet file and Delta file. The Parquet and Delta, I have another picture right here. If you notice here, if you take a look here, this second one is Parquet and third one is Delta. This file looks exactly the same. The difference between a Parquet file and Delta file is in Delta, it has ACID property and schema enforcement and time travel enabled. So when we say the time travel, we'll cover this in later video, but time travel is like a CD2 concept. We can go back at the specific time and then we can do insert a DML operation for that specific time. That is something called the time travel. It's easy way to do that slowly changing dimension method through the Delta file. So again, in Delta file, ACID transaction, this is transaction enable, which is atomicity, all or nothing, consistency, isolated, and durability. That's the most important concept for relational database management system, right? So that is enabled for Delta file. And enterprise-wide, Delta file is the best choice or default choice to work around. And again, like per Parquet file and Delta file, the difference between is for Delta file we have ACID property enable and derived enable. And the most common misconception that we do have was, let me show you this picture. This is something called the medallion architecture. This is fancy word I would consider. However, it's a very simple concept, not a very we as a SQL ETL developer we already have in implementing this. This is raw data, this is cleansed data, and this is the final data, like dim and fact data, like a view, repository data. So we can talk about in detail an upcoming session about this medallion architecture. We probably do the demo on those as well. But since we are talking about the files at this time, once we receive the file in CSV format, the CSV format will keep edges. Once we move the data into the silver label, which is cleansed label, that CSV file will convert it to the Parquet format and create the new file. And once you move the data into gold format, which is like a view label, dim and fact label, then those Parquet will have the ACID property enable. Those are the most important concept that we should remember. Okay. As far as for the performance, when you talk about this file, we should think about the file design. Always, the raw file will be on top, then we will be creating those Parquet file or curated file on next, and then Delta file will down here. So this structure is not auto enable. As a data engineer, we have to enable this structure. How is another simple concept that when you write the code to write this data, we should give some file mechanism where those file format will be created. This is another concept. And the final thing I wanted to cover right here is another partitioning strategy. We are doing the partition on file level, like I mentioned. And then when you consider the partitioning, we should consider the volume of that file. We should consider about the query frequency filter on that column, like which column is most frequently used on where clause and things like that. For that, we should create the partition. Also, that partition column should be reliable cardinality level, right? So these are the basic concept when you creating the partition on the file level. So creating partition, design the appropriate folder on those three CSV, Parquet, and Delta file is the critical thing for performance and cost and reliability. So with that being said, I will jump into a demo and bring some file into our Databricks. Let's do those concepts in action. So I'm in my Databricks portal. If you are in home, you just need to go to data ingestion tab right here. And in data ingestion tab, if you remember, we have already uploaded the data file, CSV file using create and modify table, where if you upload the file from here, it can directly create the table from there. And also have done uploading through the volume. So when you upload the data file from here, it kind of is a managed table. It's considered as a managed table. So the file will within Databricks, all those governments will within the Databricks. So it's more secure. But in this episode, we're going to do some external table, create the external table, and see those CSV and Parquet and Delta in appropriately, right? So for that, let me click on this Amazon S3. Actually, I already have the Amazon S3 account. You can create the Amazon S3 bucket. You can go to the Amazon AWS site and you can log in. You can create the free account. And once you have those free account created, you can just click that S3. S3 is where you can like a data lake where you can load your file, CSV file. So what I'm going to, I've already be created that AWS account and I'm in S3 folder. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create the bucket to upload my test file. So I click there for create the bucket. I'm going to give a universal name My intention was to upload one of my test file, like let me upload a company stock file. So I have this file in my local directory right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload that file, the sample file onto that Amazon S3, right? So let me name as a Dilip, what is the name again? Company stock. Company STOCK stock 001. So it is a globally unique, so I just name just like that. And I don't think I have to just create the bucket, hit the create the bucket. Everything will be the same in there. So I create the bucket, and now I can upload that CSV file into this bucket. So this is my newly created bucket, right? So I'm gonna add a file, click on add file, and go to my download folder, the company stock file. I'm gonna click that right here. It will take some time to fully upload it, upload this file. But meanwhile, what I can do is I can click on this and click on upload. And this upload successfully. So let me do, now I can go to, if I click here, the file is uploaded in my Amazon S3. This is my bucket, and this is my the file, and I can copy this URL for now. So now I have to go to my Databricks and set up this, create the connection between this Amazon S3 to my Databricks. So for that, I'll go to workspace right here. Let me say, let me go to the workspace, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create actually the catalog, not a workspace. And let me go to the catalog, and then I'm going to create the external location, right? And then click on next. I'm going to do the AWS quick start recommended. And right here, I will be bringing my bucket here. If I go back here and then copy that my bucket. So this is my bucket. Let me copy this bucket name. And then I'm gonna come back and paste that bucket name, and I'm gonna generate that token and launch quick launch start. What I'm doing here is I'm basically create a connection manager between this my Databricks with data lake. Data lake is currently I consider the S3 bucket, right? So I'm gonna paste that token right here. Everything else will be same. I just hit acknowledge and then create this stack. I'm not going to save this. Okay. So it will take some time to update this file right there. If I go back to my external location, once this is completed, it will show up right here. Okay, now the file was uploaded in my S3 bucket. I can go here to verify this on the file. This file is uploaded successfully. Now I can go to my Databricks, go to my catalog. Let me go and see that my connection was appropriate. Let me cancel that out. I have seen, these two URL. This is company stock 001 is a bucket that I created, and this is the URL that I have. Now what I can do is, since my S3 bucket data lake is already connected with my catalog, now what I can do, I can just go to the SQL editor and read that file from here, select start from that file. Let me open the SQL query in new tab right here. Then what I can do is I can, since this is SQL tab, SQL editor open, I'm going to do select star from that table. So I think I this query select start from read file. If I go here and get this file, this is S3 bucket file, and paste that file information line here. This is CSV, and then header is true. And if I run it, these will get the same result, the file result. So this is what we have on that file, right? So we successfully read the data from that file. So now next what we can do is we can create some external table. This is we read directly from the file. Now next we will be creating external table on catalog. For that, let me create a new notebook called, let me new data. One second. Let me create a new notebook called my external table. Let's see, first external table. Okay, I just added the create table structure. So I wanted to create the table on loan database and DB schema and name company stock using this external location. So if I go back to that loan database in DB schema, this time I have only one weather managed table. That's the managed table we have created last time. But for now, let's run this script to create the external table. Okay, with that, the 5-second the script was run, and if I go back to my loan table, and the company stock was created. The company stock table was created. Let me do one more thing. Just keep suggesting the new thing. So let me create the new table called. I'm gonna do the same thing. Let me copy this code. And then in new code, let me delete this, and then have new code here. And then what I want to do was, so just creating another silver table, creating another silver table like a silver company stock. Like earlier, we just create the company stock table. This is now what we are doing here is we are selecting everything. Plus, we wanted to create some ad hoc column like current timestamp, file name, and UID for the uniqueness, right? From that particular S3 bucket for the CSV file, header, and this. So I also did run that one earlier. So now it's let me, if I just rename this name, it's going to run again. So Silver Company 2 was created. If I just verify those table, if I go and refresh my table here, I should be able to see multiple table within this DBO schema. So if I just drop down, there is already company stock, silver company stock. If I click one of any, and then go to the sample data, all the data will be available here. Okay, so those data we can see from here, as well as for another silver company stock data all available here. If I go back, the same data, since it's already delivered, if I click on detail, you see this the external. This type is table is external table. This managed table. If you remember this table we created yesterday, it was managed table, versus the company stock was this table was the external. We can do the permission policies, history, etc. from here. Let me go and make some changes on this table. You can see the data from here as well, like define the data frame and display the data from here. So this is how we can do. And finally, one item I want to quickly show you is I'm gonna update that stock silver company stock to table. Update this table, set stock price to 5,000 and company for so any Apple company stock I wanted to set to the 5,000. So I'm gonna run that script, update this script. So I make these changes for company stock 2 is update was completed. If I go back here and then company stock 2, click on here, we can see the sample data. And if I go and see the history tab, you should be able to see some history. So at the beginning we create the table, then is just now we make the update. So anything we make a change on that particular table, this will keep on history. That is one very important thing that we need to be consider. So history will create it. Anything we make a change, this will keep the history. Any insert, update, delete, or any kind of YAML operation on this table is great. Not only saving the history on this external table on Databricks, but also this will actually rewrite those history on S3 bucket. So if you remember that we created earlier, we created only one file, one CSV file on my S3 bucket. Now you see, so some other history, the folder was created like company stock Delta. If I open that folder, you see the actually Parquet file was created. So anything we make a change there from the Databricks, actual, in our data lake, the Delta file, Parquet file was created. So this is this is what I wanted to share. So at the beginning of this video, what we were talking about was, we get the file as a CSV, and we, as we forward, we make a change, any cleansing, any activity, the file will convert it to Parquet file or Delta file. All right, so that is what I wanted to prove through this demo. So there is, based on the what we made a change on this script, that file was converted to Parquet with a log. So this is what I wanted to cover in this particular video. Hope this makes sense. So we'll be moving to the next several session about understanding about this same concept, like medallion architecture concept. So stay tuned for that. Bye for now.